Now next, I'd like our first panel to please come forward and join us on the dais. Bishop Ingram, the mayors, please come forward. And as they're coming forward, I'm just going to ask that a video be shown that focuses on three young men. Newark, Ricky, and Tony, could they please stand up? And Michael, the video, please.
We manufacture woodwork specifically for commercial buildings. Anything that would be custom designed and fabricated. We did Jazz at Lincoln Center, the Signature Theater, Princeton University, Princeton Hospital, large corporate conference centers. We did Goldman Sachs, Hearst, Time Inc. We are very mechanized, and so our factory is set up in a way that it's very nimble, but it needs high-tech workers to drive it.
At a young age, I was being knucklehead. I started selling drugs on the block.
I was incarcerated in 2010.
Yes, it was very difficult finding a job. I didn't really know where to go. A lot of jobs don't want to hire you. It was hard to find some place that would actually take me.
I was skeptical at first. We're going to have to put a lot of work into these people.
Right about now, I do a little everything, from shipping to machines to carpenter.
Carpenter. They had me doing carpenter, and I took a class before, and I really like it. Something I got into when I was younger with my mother.
5 years down the line, I went from broom pusher to supervisor,
And it was quite a surprise to see the talent that's there. And I think, but for circumstances, these young guys that we have would have probably been successful.
And they just sent me to Michigan. First time on a plane and everything for a week for training.
They're very intelligent and they are able to see opportunity and capitalize on it.
I got 14 months in now and I'm pretty good. But I guess, give me another year, I could be running with all the big bosses soon.
Yes, it's very cool knowing that people actually looking at your stuff and saying it's nice, stuff that you worked on.
Because we don't see it in whole. You'll see 40 carts roll out of here, and it's like, okay, 40 carts, but you don't see the bigger picture. And when you walk into an auditorium where you did all the wall panels, all the ceiling panels, and you walk in and like, oh my God, like what a sight, it's awesome.
So we're constantly looking to try to find the talent that we need to continue to grow, and we are in the process now of building a new facility with the ability to double our capacity in every department.
Thanks. I'd ask Andrew and the guys to come up here. Ricky, Pedro, Newark, come on up here for 30 seconds. Can we have a round of applause for these guys? Take off your hat. And I just want Andrew's philosophy is no millennials, only those returning. Go ahead, Andrew, a few words.
You stole my line. Yes, we've struggled to find young people that want to be involved in manufacturing, and there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. And I'll admit I was skeptical early on, but what I found is really that the young guys behind me, I'm not doing them any favor. They're bringing great value to our company. They're probably were circumstances that drove them to situations, and it hadn't been for those circumstances, they would be exactly where they are today, or even beyond. And it's a tribute to the governor's great work that I understand that now, and I've been able to capitalize on it strictly from a commercial perspective and find the talent that I need.
Thanks. Thanks. Ricky, you want to say anything? Ricky, come on. Rick, just 2 words.
How y'all doing? He wanted me to speak on my plane experience. First time on the plane, soon I got there, the fire extinguisher bust on the plane, my heart just dropped, I ain't gonna lie. I just said, not today, not my first time, but I really appreciate all the opportunity that came to me, so, and I would not miss any opportunity. I worked so hard to get here, and I'm going forward. That's it. That's it.
Amen. Thank you. Hey, did you say 2 words? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, for the opportunity, give minorities a chance to, become who we can become, and give us the opportunity to prove ourselves more than our past has shown. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Marie? Who's your counsel? Where is he? Ms. Muhammad?
No, John was.
Oh,
Now,
give a shout out to John.
shout out to John for really helping me become what I am, a taxpayer now.
Hey!
I didn't see myself becoming that, but seeing it now, the video and the hard work that I'm putting in at AMI, it's wonderful, actually seeing that. So thank you all for your help, and time to move forward from here now.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you to Andrew and the EMI. Thank you very much. We're just... Go ahead, do you want to check the microphones? So we're going to just start out, and what we see in the New Jersey Reentry Corporation, we're blessed, and I'm just going to introduce the panel, starting at the far right, Senator and Mayor Brian Stack from the great city of Union City, who is somebody who's been dedicated to reentry, and from his own family and his own upbringing, he understands the importance of these opportunities. And Mayor Stack's been a great champion in the state legislature and here in Hudson. The great mayor of Toms River, Mayor Kelaher, who, after the governor, is my second favorite Republican. But, Mayor Kelaher happens to be from Jersey City, happens to have gone to St. Peter's. I'm sure he was baptized a Democrat. Then he crossed over that Driscoll Bridge. But Mayor Kelaher, Bishop, you've seen as somebody, a moral voice of authority, not only in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, but throughout the nation. And I'm just very much honored that he's on this dais and with us here today. Bishop Ingram, thank you. Mayor Fulop, the great mayor of Jersey City, you've heard from. Judge Bariso, Judge is the domo, is the man in charge of Hudson County Court, and he's been a great advocate, not only in drug court, not only in the criminal side of the bench and on the civil side of the bench, but he's been a great supporter for us, and I'm just really grateful that he's here today. And lastly is the great mayor of the city of Newark, Brick City. Somebody give it up for Brick City, Brittany. And he's a branch of that great stem who was his father. So I just want to say thank you very much, Mayor, for being here today. And the first thing, I'm just going to start off with the judge. And Judge, could you tell us, from a judicial perspective, what is reentry and what are the challenges to the judiciary?
Well, you only gave us an hour up here, Governor. I don't know how to, but briefly, the challenge from the judiciary's point of view will come into play with the new Criminal Reform Act. And one of the things that the Criminal Reform Act, that's effective January 1, hopefully will allow us not to detain individuals and set various conditions for their release other than money. And part of those conditions will come into play with what you've seen, and from the young men we just heard from, what a judge can do under the new statute. We can let someone out without posting any money, and we can set conditions that hopefully will help the individual as well as the system. And a couple of those conditions, if you're employed, we can make it a condition that you have to maintain employment. If you're not employed, we can set a condition that you actively seek employment as one of the conditions to keep you out of prison. We can also ask you to maintain or to commence educational programs. We can ask you to see pretrial services routinely. You heard the U.S. Attorney talk about every couple of weeks coming to the courthouse, where you basically would check in and you'd be monitored. We can also ask you to refrain from alcohol and drug use and ask you to get counseling. And I think what we're trying to do is, it's simplistic to say we want to reduce the jail population, but if we truly want to keep it reduced, then the judiciary has to work in setting conditions that help that and prevent recidivism. I guess in a
And I
nutshell.
just want to say thank you, because we've got a real partnership with the judiciary in Hudson County, and now we're in Ocean County with Mayor Kelaher, and we're also in Patterson-Passaic County, and we're in Essex County. And I just wanted to ask the bishop, I mean, obviously, as presiding bishop of a large and flourishing church, and I'm grateful for the pastors that are here, what do you see within the sanctuary? What do you see within the four walls of the church that people are yearning for change, for reentry?
Church ought to be a redeeming institution. It's not always that. And one of the things you have to do is kind of break down some of the walls. The poet once said that high walls make good neighbors, and that's not necessarily so, because we're talking over against people, not talking with people. So one of the things I think we have to do is create an environment, an ethos, where you can have people come in and share similar stories. Some of the things we heard today, all of us have relatives or friends or people who have been adversely affected by all kinds of things. And this matter about the reentry is very much a thing that we live with every day. So the question is, how do we redefine what church is? Church is never a place, it's always a people. It's never a fold, it's always a flock. Never a sacred building, it's always a believing assembly. So how do we create an environment where we make it a place of dignity, where everybody can come in and we can share each other's stories and relate with each other and build the kind of community that I think God wants us to have.
Amen. Thank you. Mayor Baraka, one of the things is in every community it's different. Say, for example, in Ocean County, maybe the challenge is opiate addiction. In Essex County, it might be more gang violence. What do you see in the great city of Newark? What do you see as some of the challenges? And I just want to also recognize the mayor's work, because he's a full partner with us in our work and what we do in the Conservancy. Him, and I also want to recognize the county executive, Joe DiFrancesco and Phil. But the mayor spoke, and he's got a friendship with John, who we work with. Mayor, what do you see as we grow? And frankly, we've got 20 clients a week in Newark. What do you see as some of the institutional or some of the capacity challenges as we move out?
Well, obviously, we need, as we spoke with the president about, we need more resources to be able to service people in a whole kind of sense. The work that you're doing around transitional housing or housing period, jobs, drug addiction, getting them IDs, licenses, all of those things are important. And then trying to find places for them to work. So being creative about how do you create opportunities for them for employment. So in Newark, we are moving towards, cooperatives. So instead of just trying to find people jobs, we want to put them in places where they own the job themselves. Out of Cleveland, they do this Evergreen Institute. So we have a cooperative laundry that we're partnered with St. Barnabas to help us to create a laundry for reentry folks where they own and operate the laundry themselves. So this will help us decide whether we want to continue to do this or expand it or create other industry where young people could get involved in terms of reentry and run their own kind of manufacturing as opposed to just being an employee of one. You become an employee and an owner at the same time. So in order to do this, you need a lot of resources and you need a lot of support and commitment, not just from the public sector, but from private sector and the philanthropic sector as well. So we need this to continuously ring itself throughout the state where people begin to become committed to advancing their dollars, their resources, their procurement towards the kind of programs that we're trying to develop around putting people back to work.
Yeah, and I think what Mayor Baraka said is so important, and we're doing it at the Conservancy, giving people opportunities to work as they come out. So they do landscaping, they did snow removal. They can see how wonderful homeowners are when they don't clean the snow as perfectly as they would like, but it's getting people work and jobs and job opportunities. And with that, I just, Mayor Stack, Senator Bryan, you've understood the importance of addiction treatment, and Bob is here from Integrity House. How critical is addiction treatment when 70% of the people behind bars are either addicts and or alcoholics? What component is that, in addition to jobs, as part of the reentry cycle?
It's very, very critical. I mean, I've had addiction issues within my own family, so I've seen it firsthand, Governor. And first, I'd like to say thank you for your work and thank you for all that you do on this. It's so important. I see it on a daily basis, more as a mayor than I do as a state senator. But it's very important. We try, in the mayor's office, when people come in for assistance, we try firsthand to help them get into programs, to help them with addiction treatment, also help them find employment. But we even try to take it a step further and tie into what Mayor Baraka just said, trying to help them get set up somewhere in an apartment, even if we can get them into a room to start. But just the basic necessities of getting a bed, helping them with a refrigerator, things that we might take for granted that they just don't have, especially people who have been addicted or just coming out of prison. It's a very tough world. You don't give them an opportunity, you don't show them that somebody truly cares, they're back to that same cycle again. Tying in what the U.S. Attorney said, it's very, very true. They just need to see that somebody cares and that there's somebody out there. Resources is definitely important. Transitional housing is critical to help them with, just to get them on their feet again.
So I just wanted, with what you just said about somebody cares, in our program, we believe in addiction treatment with our partners with Integrity House and Avis Village. We believe in transitional housing, which we support, employment, as Mayor Baraka said, linking people to health care, federally qualified health center. And again, I want to thank Jen Velez and Barnabas. And lastly, legal services. But one of the areas is, and I want to thank Mayor Kelaher, in Toms River and in Ocean County, where there is an addiction crisis. Mayor, how important is it to build community support? And how did you achieve this?
Well, Governor, I think everybody should know from all the news media that we are in an epidemic of heroin deaths in Ocean County. I used to be the Ocean County prosecutor a dozen years ago, and we would experience maybe 50 deaths of a combination of cocaine, alcohol, or some other mixed drugs, a little bit of heroin. Right now, all of these deaths are heroin related, and it's just a tragic situation. I know our folks in the prosecutor's office would estimate that of the 5,000 cases that the prosecutor's office was screening back then, 85% or so were drug-related, either the actual use, possession, or the spin-off crimes of burglaries and so on. So it's so important to address that problem from so many sources. The law enforcement people can't do it themselves. One of the most successful things I had as the prosecutor was the establishment of the drug court in our county. And, you know, when people say, oh, you were a prosecutor, you must have had a lot of interesting things. You know, yes, unfortunately, there are murders, robberies, and things of that nature. But the most important thing, and I'll always remember it, was our drug court program. During the 5.5 years I was a prosecutor, 350 some odd people graduated from that program. Women got their children back from DIFAs. People got on the payroll and started paying taxes. And one of the big problems that we had then was getting jobs for these people, because that was one of the conditions of drug court. The Toms River doesn't have a lot of industry, and so it was a little bit difficult. Some of the big part-time employers were a big help, like Great Adventure and Blue Claw Stadium and so on. Right now, there's a greater opportunity, and I'm so glad you're going to be a part of our community to help on this project. As I guess one good benefit of Hurricane Superstorm Sandy, which destroyed us, is that there's so much construction work available, and I'm hoping that with your efforts too, we'd be able to place a lot of these people who have to have something to do when they come out of treatment or custody, because otherwise they're going to be like Taekwondo and go right back into it, or be tempted to go back into it.
Sure. Bishop, did you want to say?
Well, I think several things. We're addressing a problem of hopelessness and despair. There are only two ways people can get things in life. Either you earn it or you steal it. And chances, possibility to get people getting away with things are not very great. That's why the prisons are packed, the jails are jammed, courtrooms are crowded. One of the issues that we're dealing with is how do you, there's a great question, a theological question, will thou be made whole? So how do we bring a sense of wholeness to people when they feel as though they've been overlooked, undercounted, and there's this overwhelming sense of people trying to get to the point where they can feel good about themselves. This whole issue about self-esteem, I mean, it's out the window. We live in a country, or we live in a culture now that over-exaggerates and enamours people based on what they wear, what they see. I mean, it's a strange dynamic that persons go out here trying to buy a $400 or $500 pair of tennis shoes as though that's going to make you jump higher or run faster. Question is, what are we doing in this society to affirm people and their somebodyness, if you want to say that? Finally, let me say this matter about values, because that's what we're talking about. Values are no more than what's socially acceptable by the masses. When I heard the senator over here speak about some things, he used a reference about in Genesis, and I call it, what can save the city in an X-rated society? I mean, this whole matter about Abraham when he said, if you find 50 righteous, and he went down to and you find one. Well, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That's why the church has to be fundamentally different and to bring all the community together. So we're not talking at each other, we're talking with each other. Yeah.
So Mayor Fulop, I mean, part of this is also developing the political will. So New Jersey, I think, is in the vanguard. Both Republicans and Democrats support the idea of reentry, that our goal isn't prosecution, our goal is treatment, our goal is housing. How do we develop the political will to make this a wider reality within our state?
I think, is this on?
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with,
Oh, no.
I think it has a lot to do with education, to be honest with you. This is the type of issue that most people would say that's a good thing to be doing. And you see by the turnout today. From my personal experience at the same time, it is a very, very typical type of NIMBY issue where people think it's great, but not in my backyard type of thing. And I've experienced that time and time again. And it's a hard thing to overcome, and it takes a lot of education. We had to go through that with the community in Jersey City, where people's knee-jerk reaction was to say, I don't want that type of facility in my specific neighborhood. Yes, this is a good thing to be doing, but not really by me. And it took a while to get people comfortable with even where the Martin's Place headquarters is, that happens to be a location that is safe because the people who are coming through there, yes, they may have records, but they are seeking to better their lives. They are coming from a place of actually trying to get better. So there's an education component. And then the other big challenge that we have ultimately that I think speaks to kind of the political will and the overall will is the coordination of a lot of different resources. So we have a good relationship with the judicial system now, with our head prosecutor who's there. We're reaching out to the churches, the social workers, the political components. The one thing about this issue, which is different than a lot of others, is that there are so many different entities that are crucial. They're not optional. They are absolutely crucial to making it successful, and there's not one big brush that you could do for every single individual. Each of those individuals sitting around the table have their own stories, their own backgrounds. They're all demoralized. Nobody loves them. Nobody cares, and it is very hard to get all those resources together to say that you will not fall through the cracks. I am certain that everybody who walks through Martin's Place initially, they're hopeful that their life could get better, but they're also probably skeptical that they're going to be treated the same way that they've been treated before, which is ultimately slipping through the system and the cracks that exist. And it really creates a challenge for us to bring this framework together that can move things forward politically and from a community standpoint.
Thank you. Mayor Baraka.
So I just wanted to say two things. One, we always refer to people that are returning home from incarceration as reentry, but I would argue that they were never a part of society in the first place, or never felt like they were involved in what was happening in the beginning. So it's not like you're re-entering. It's like your first foray into the community that is now trying to welcome you after you've been punished, as opposed to welcoming you before you were punished, which drove you into doing what you was doing in the first place, right? So that's number one, and I think it begins to change the way we spend our dollars. And then lastly, we talk about resources. I think what the legislature can do is when people, this whole idea about maxing out, we spend a lot of money around prisoners who max out all the way to the end. And usually, and I think the U.S. Attorney alluded to it, most of these people, 90% of folks are going to return home anyway. So most of the time when people max out, when they come home, these are folks who will more than likely return back to the institution. In fact, in Newark, most of the guys who return home, within a year of them being out of jail, a lot of them are either victims of homicide or committing violence themselves because they have not been a part of any real reentry or any kind of services. The reality is we need to stop this whole idea about maxing out, save some of that money that we use to incarcerate people all the way to the end, and bring them home in a program. Because when people have structured programs, it's more than likely they'll be involved in a program that the U.S. Attorney talked about, Fishman, which I think those programs are incredible to some of the things that we're trying to do in the county and in the city. Those programs are successful, and we need money to do that, and we could take the money directly from the prison system that keeps the money for people who are maxing out all of this time, right? So if we give them a shorter time with more structure and programs to be involved, we are guaranteeing almost that they will not return back to jail.
I agree.
Can we have a round of applause for Mayor Baraka? So, you know, one of the, we have a program at 32 Prince Street in Newark and MLK and Patterson on Montgomery and now Main Street in Toms River. But I think Mayor Baraka pointed to something very important, as did Mayor Fulop earlier, about how do we change the metrics? I mean, so I remember when I was a young assistant prosecutor, the goal was prosecutions. Young public defender, the goal is exoneration. How do we change the goal, whether it's Mayor Kelaher or Judge Bariso, how do we change the goal so that it's making the person whole to changing that behavior? Judge?
Well, in following up, I think, what the bishop said and what I think the tone here is, people, it's hopelessness. And people have to have they have to feel that they're wanted. That's one of the difficulties that the judicial system, I mean, we're not here, look, it'd be nice if I can say we can coddle everybody and be somebody's mother. Our branch of government doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Our branch of government is to enforce the laws that the legislature passed. However, as the mayor of Toms River said, and we have a unique situation, our drug court judge is the former prosecutor. So he has a very unique perspective, and if anyone here has ever seen Judge DeFazio or remembers Ed DeFazio from his prosecutorial days, he has a way about him in communicating. And I think he's done a phenomenal job in following up with what Judge Venable did, who will be here later, in terms of our drug court. And there's nothing more remarkable than coming to a drug court graduation. And that's what it is, and I emphasize that in my opening remarks. These young men and women have worked extremely hard and did not take the easy way out because someone cared about them. Right. The problem is when no one cares about you, people will do the time. It's easier to do the time than to do the drug court program or the programs that we're establishing, and that's my concern in terms of the conditions we can impose. We have a wonderful statute that the legislature passed to prevent incarceration. The question's going to be convincing the young men and women to take these steps as opposed to simply doing the time. And I think in order to do that, as you said, Bishop, they have to feel wanted. Someone has to show them that they have a purpose out there and they're meaningful. It's easy for me to sit up there in a robe and say that, but I'm a stranger.
Tom, as a former prosecutor, I mean, to go to Mayor Baraka's point, is there anything that we can do, instead of just looking at prosecution and sentence, to look perhaps at what we can do to perhaps mitigate the sentence, but put people in situations where they can be made whole?
Yes, and I think I see that changing a bit. I kind of have a philosophy, even as the mayor in Toms River, have an attitude or a philosophy, what can we do to help? And I think that has to permeate the law enforcement community too, and not just say, okay, that's the sentence, you're convicted, rather than to say, wait a minute, this guy needs some help, and let's see if we can divert him or do something to that effect, because just throwing the key away and locking him up is not the answer. Now, at least I see you've had a program, I know here in Hudson County, trying to help people in jail, but maybe we could do more before they even have to wind up in prison.
Senator Stack?
Sure. Governor, what Mayor Baraka said, and he hit the nail right on the head, if there's no type of funding dedicated for people when they're coming out, We're just throwing good money after bad money over and over again. It goes into the black hole and it never comes back. By investing in people when they come out and helping them, find a job, find some type of housing. I'm sure Mayor Baraka faces it like every other mayor does, Mayor Fulop does. You're trying to help people, but there's no funding there. You're trying to help people, there's not a lot there. Thank God for the reentry program, but there's got to be now monies dedicated on the state level. And myself being a senator, I'd be happy to do that. There's got to be money dedicated to help people when they're coming out. You talked about people not wanting the reentry program in the neighborhood. There's people that don't want a homeless shelter in the neighborhood. They've done nothing wrong. These are people that are homeless. It's not a crime to be homeless. And housing is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Think about how hard it is for somebody to come out that's been incarcerated to find a place. I mean, I've been there. I mean, my former chief of staff, Mark Albiz, is here. He can tell you how hard it is to find somebody a place to live, especially when they're making minimum wage. How do they afford even a room? And I think that's some of the things that we're forgetting. If we invested some of that money, instead of spending whatever it is, $60,000 a year incarcerating somebody, help them to become productive citizens. Even Mayor Baraka said many of these people, you talk about reentry, many of these people were never part of society, and it's a shame. And now coming out of prison, they're ostracized and they're pushed to the side. And it's wrong. If we don't dedicate some type of funding, if we don't have some type of programs on a statewide level to help them once they're out, and it's not dedicated to the municipalities, I don't see how it's going to work. We really need to put our money where our mouth is and dedicate it and make them more productive. I really believe that, and they can be. And a lot of it is what Judge Bariso just said, not feeling wanted, not feeling loved by anyone. People's upbringing, how they come up. I was fortunate to be raised the way I was, but if I wasn't, I didn't have parents that cared about me, who knows where I'd be today? And I think a lot of people just don't want to admit that.
And we've been blessed with the Affordable Care Act with President Obama, as now we can register everyone for health care and federally qualified health care center, provide them access to Medicaid. Working with the county, we provide for transitional housing, but it's also employment, as I think a number of people said. And I was just wondering if Mayor Fulop can talk about perhaps some of your efforts at having people be employed, not only on construction job opportunities, but enrolling them in the trade unions to sort of increase the next generation of people that perhaps are at risk into solid employment avenues.
Yeah, couple points on that. The employment thing is a complicated one because I'll hear often from the community that we devote a lot of resources towards the reentry community, and then the greater 99% of the community that hasn't been involved in incarceration, what's being devoted towards them. And it takes an education component for people to understand that that small 1% that's coming out of the jail system is, again, the ones that are doing a disproportionate amount of the crime in your community, so it does impact everybody, and how important it is to break that cycle. I just want to also highlight that one thing that I've learned through this experience over the last 3 years as mayor is that a lot of the kids that get into these systems, ultimately, they come from families that have been into these systems. Their father was in the jail system, their uncle was in the jail system. They are not scared of the jail system. So while we're looking at the post-incarceration component, there's a lot to be said about the pre-incarceration component as far as targeting and recognizing those children that are high risk because of the families that they come from, ultimately. We have tried in Jersey City to partner with, like Andy in the front, who you've heard from earlier, or the laborers, some of the building trades, getting these individuals into the respective unions or jobs, but it is literally one at a time. There is no mass solution, so to speak. And I would say that what Andrew said when he was up here initially, that he was skeptical initially when he got involved in this program. You all heard him say that up here. And that is true of every single employer that we deal with. There is an education component that we have to go through with them to make them feel comfortable that this is going to be a good employee, this is going to be a good match, this is somebody who wants to better their life. So that's really ultimately where the challenge is that we have, and that's why a lot of the partners in this room are important.
Thank you, Mayor. Judge Bariso, mental health issues. Mental health is such a critical component in terms of reentry, co-occurring disorders. Can you just touch upon mental health?
Mental health is very difficult, particularly for the judiciary, as it is for society in general. We're very fortunate that we have a cooperative effort with the Jersey City Medical Center, where although we don't have a term calling it mental health court, we have a situation where an individual who is either incarcerated or in the criminal justice system is identified as needing assistance, we have been fortunate enough to work with the medical center and identify these individuals and try and get treatment, which they cannot get necessarily being incarcerated. But the biggest difficulty is, and the senator, I'm going to throw it back to the legislature, that, there's nowhere to put these individuals. We have nowhere to house the mentally ill. And we, as a justice system, also are responsible for the safety of the community. And the standard we have to impose is the individual a danger to him or herself or to the community at large. And when we can identify someone, and we've worked with the prosecutor's office, we've had meetings with the new prosecutor who's here about mental health, and we have tried to devote the resources to it. The difficulty we have from the judicial branch, I don't have the authority to order somebody to house these people in an apartment complex. I don't have that authority, and that's the difficulty, Governor. We don't have the residents available for the mentally ill. And we don't have families who are capable of taking care of them. I mean, if there were family members or sponsors, if we want to call it that, who can vouch or keep them, but it's very difficult, very difficult. And that's a large component too. Mental health is just as bad as the drug problem when it comes to the criminal justice system. It's unfortunate.
So we're seeing that we have mental health and addiction, but I think thanks to the Affordable Care Act, we have the monies now to be able to tackle those issues. We also have employment, as Mayor Fulop said, Mayor Baraka, and Senator Stack said, that has to be a cooperation between the private sector and the public sector. But we're hearing housing, housing, housing. And that is an ongoing issue because obviously we have state prisons, more than enough capacity. But as Senator Stack said, we have to create alternatives for housing that provide people avenues for safe, sober, structured housing, which is important. Could you just also, Tom, Mayor Kelaher, talk a little bit about identification and driver's licenses and the burdens that are so important that I know John Kufos and our team at the New Jersey Reentry Corporation grapples every day with?
That was always one of the frustrations with the drug court program, that these people were task organized by the courts to get employment, and most of them, for one reason or another, prior to their arrest, had lost their license for driving under the influence or points or failure to pay insurance or whatever. And especially in Ocean County, there's literally no public transportation to speak of at all. And so without a driver's license, it was impossible, very difficult to help these people get employment. And so I think that more effort has to be directed toward maybe work permits or driver's license, something like that, because without them, it's very difficult.
Mayor Baraka?
Senator Rice has a bill that I think people should be aware of that allows people to work off their surcharge on the driver's license as well. So that's something that people should keep their eye on and make sure we support on a state level to get all of the impediments and obstacles away that prevent people from getting their driver's license back.
Thank you. And I just want to emphasize what Mayor Baraka said is that we track legislation that deals with the reentry population affecting addiction, mental health, housing, employment, and a number of those issues. And I just wanted to ask, and then I'll just open it for questions. I see my friend Joe Hayden had a question. Bishop, so in terms of creating a moral agenda, and it seems as if, thanks to the gentleman on this table, how do we change, and we're going to hear from Mark a little later on, who represents General Counsel of Coke Industries. This isn't a Republican or Democratic issue, but how do we create critical mass within the church, within the body politic, to say that, as I think as Paul Fishman said so articulately, if 95% of the people are coming back, as Mayor Baraka referred to, why don't we do this system better? How do we create that motivation in the church, as Senator Stack said, in the community?
Well, and let me commend you. This whole dynamic of people here today, all of us are stakeholders. So all of us have a vested interest. Let me refer to a biblical piece. Story about the Good Samaritan. Goes down the road, and he's literally taken advantage of, stripped of all of his goods. Priest comes by, goes on the other side. A Levite comes by, goes on the other side. But then the Samaritan comes, and he picks him up, takes him to the inn, and says, take care of him. And whatever is more, when I return. Now, the story stops there, but the question is, you have to envision, where did he go? Obviously, there's something wrong with this society that someone will take advantage or rob another person. And all the things we've talked about here today, employment, mental health, housing, all of that is endemic about things happening in this society. So how do we bring all the people together so we can create an ethos, an environment where we are, again, talking? Because all the problems we all share. And the misery index knows no color.
Amen.
It's not Democrat, it's not Republican. All of that, we all are impacted. So how do we do it? We do it one by one, sharing each other's stories, understanding we have each other's investment. So I think we got to speak truth to power. Isn't it interesting? We can find money to imprison people, but not enough money to educate people to help people.
Right, right.
Thank you. And thank you, Bishop. And I just, before I open up, I just would like to, the men and women from the New Jersey Reentry Corporation, the case managers, could they just stand up and be recognized? All from all the, wherever you're from. They're in the back. All right, if you could give them a round of applause. Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Joshua. And I'm proud to say that we have a 19.2% recidivism rate, and we have a 58% employment rate, in no small measure to the efforts of the mayors on this table that are working with us. Next, I just asked my friend Joe Hayden had a question. Joe? Could you just...
Thank you. I have an observation as to what a remarkable proceeding this is and gathering of different segments of our criminal justice system. I have been in the criminal justice system for 46 years. I was a prosecutor, I was a defense attorney. And when we started, it was us against them. The defense didn't talk to the prosecution. They didn't talk to the defense. Everybody just cared about winning, and then the judges imposed sentence. And what we have now is a unique confluence of the prosecution, of the defense, of the judiciary, of the churches, who have common cause. And the common cause is around a recognition our system doesn't work. We can't keep doing this. We're all in it together. I'm involved in the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, and when we had a national meeting, everybody was around the table talking about mass incarceration and trying to deal with the system. And as we talked about our programs, it was clear New Jersey was light years ahead of what's happening in other states. What we're doing is not even comparable in most states. But the other thing which dawned on me from a systems point of view is the change occurred when the courts, the prosecution, like we saw Mr. Fishman, the defense, and the churches banded together in creative programs which showed results. And all of the leaders said, if we waited for the legislature to pass a law on prisoner reentry, it wouldn't have happened. So what we have here is absolutely unique, not only in New Jersey, but in the country, and it's an honor to be here.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. And Joe is also a member of our board. Thank you.
Good morning.
Just introduce
I love
yourself.
you, Governor Gregory. Thank you. My name is Janine Butler, and I'm a program coordinator of the Essex County Correctional Facility. But more important, I'm a resident of Newark and a proud American of these United States. So as I'm driving around and we see all these abandoned properties, I'm just wondering, I'm a little nervous, why haven't any of us decided that we have a huge untapped labor force coming out? Those abandoned, there shouldn't be one abandoned house anywhere. Because that way, you solve quite a few problems. You solve the housing problem. When people have ownership, they feel a part of something, they can look at it. Listen to what these young men said. When you go there and they know that their hard work created that,
Sure.
move them in, there's housing, jobs, skills, responsibility. So we should think about that.
Great idea. You just passed, go ahead. We have a program, and Ellen Chinnery's in the back.
And Youth Build does that
And
too.
exactly, Youth Build, and with out-of-school, at-risk youth, and now we have 145 young men and women, as Ellen reminds me daily, young men and women that are registered that are going into the building trades, which is so critically important. We'll eventually we're also doing veterans housing now, Mayor, in Jersey City, which is putting people to work who have had historical challenges with the criminal justice system.
Hi, my name is Dawn Winiger. I'm a convicted felon. I want to thank you all for the programs because I've benefited from some part of the programs. I was in ISP, not drug court, graduated from ISP. So I just want to thank you. And the few observations I just have to make is I have been out of prison for 7 years, and I had a wonderful job, and I've lost it. And I cannot find employment again. And the employment opportunities that have been presented have been awesome, but I can't lift 50 pounds of things. You want me to type a 10-page memo? I can do that for you. So I'm wondering what services there are that are more white-collar, which is harder to get into, I understand. I'm also from Somerset and Middlesex County, and in central New Jersey, nothing is being discussed. I know they try to help me, but I have to come up to Hudson County. I'm willing to take the train. But what are services that are being done statewide? I understand we're reaching the South, which is awesome, but there's been no talk in New Brunswick. There's no talk of Rawway. There's nothing in Middlesex or Somerset County.
So let me just say,
McGreevy got to go down there.
And you've got, my dear friend Mayor Stacks on the Appropriation Committee, no pressure. But in any event, can we have a round of applause for that witness? And by the way, could you ask the same question when the governor, but what we've done with the New Jersey Reentry Corporation and the Volunteers of America. The Volunteers of America have sites in Atlantic County and Mercer County, and we now have sites in Hudson County, Essex County, Passaic County, and Ocean County. And we're going to be talking to the legislature, and Speaker Prieto's been very supportive, and Senator Sweeney and the governor. And I just want to give recognition that this is a bipartisan event. But as been said, we can have, and we do have a great parole board, Jim Pelosis and Bob, and we have a Department of Corrections that we're working with, but it's also providing, as the mayor said, integrated services, case management when people come out. And when they walk into Martin's Place, or they walk into Newark, or they walk into Patterson, we're your advocates. We're there for one reason, for you. And we'd like to expand that statewide. And we're going to have a women's panel. I agree with you. We're blessed to have all this construction in Jersey City. By the way, I can't lift the 24-year-old. I'm lucky to walk down the stairs. But I mean, the point is that we work with the hospitality industry. We work with the logistics industry, trying to find jobs in each city that we're in. We do an economic cluster analysis. And we try, and different people, based on their age, their youth, and their experience, do different jobs. In fact, we're embarking on a program now with Columbia University to do, if you will, employment coaching for that. But maybe if you stay afterwards. One last question, go ahead.
Yes.
Brittany.
I'm an officer from Hudson County Corrections. Now, what I didn't realize that nobody talked about the basics. We are the basics, corrections. It starts with us. We are the foundation to them to get the state and everything else. Nobody talked about giving us extra training on how to deal with, well, first of all, I'll pass a corrections alone. That says it all, what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to start with us. The seed's supposed to be planted with us to plant them to go to state, to acknowledge them and give them the courage to go to reentry. And nobody talked about the basic, which is corrections. It starts with us.
Thank you.
We are the motivation for them to get to where they need to be. The seed starts with us. And also, one thing about the driver's license, you also don't need a major crime. You can just have child support back up and get your license took.
We deal with that every day. Brittany?
Very true.
So, Brittany, and then let me just say on corrections, we had a really positive support of Director Villas and also the Hudson County, and I believe Freeholder O'Day is here, and representatives from Hudson County, so we have a good partnership. And I just wanted to say that they included us in their training program, so corrections is changing. John and I both addressed the Department of Corrections, all the superintendents, and now we're actually in the prisons. Like, I go into Northern State Prison and recruit people that are coming back to Hudson County, coming back to Essex to come into a program. So I think there is that change that's occurring.
Yes.
So, but
Jim.
can we do more? Yes.
I just wanted
Mayor?
to add also that we are touching on every component of corrections. I just noticed also that Lance Lopez is here, who represents the 5,000 correction officers around the state of New Jersey when he knew about this. I mean, Lance, you could stand up just for a second over there. So that gentleman's as involved in the jail system as anybody. And it just highlights that we are really conscious of reaching out and every component of it, where you wouldn't think the correction officers necessarily would be so diligent and mindful of this issue specifically, where they fit into the system. It's actually the exact opposite, that he's here with some of the leadership, and it is very important to them that they don't see the same people coming back in again.
And that's why I'm here, because I'm one of them people who don't want to keep seeing them coming back again. Because I'm a representative for corrections.
Great. Thank you. And I just also want to thank Lance for, as the mayor said, for his leadership, because we've got a great partnership with corrections and also with the locals, because they understand that reentry is part of the process. So again, I just want to say thank you to him for his willingness to partner with us on any number of occasions. And his presence here, his leadership here today means a lot. So thank you very much. Freeholder President?
Yes.
And then we got to move on.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today, and I have to say how important this issue is to Essex County. Thank you to your organization, Governor McGreevey. Very early on in my term, as I was also running for office, I said that reentry would certainly be a platform, and when I walked in and saw you in there having a meeting, all I had to do was say, do exactly what he said. And that made the work so much easier. So Essex is proud to also be a partner in this entire process. But, you know, to the questions of solutions and legislation, you know, I just wanted it to be known to everyone here that we have been passing resolutions in support of our state legislators, you know, coming down with legislation to help with these issues. But also, if there's anyone in this room that has creative ideas that you want to run through our board and help be a catapult to get it to the state level, we're also more than open for business to take those suggestions as well. So please contact the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders office if that is the case. And I do share the same sentiment of my sister here, which is that there's so many abandoned properties. You can drive throughout Essex and you can see entire complexes abandoned and closed down. You know, there's no reason that we see the homeless people on the street. There's no reason that housing is still an issue for people who need to be re-entered into society when there are so many different, you know, abandoned areas. And I'm not suggesting that you take entire complexes and only put one type of income level in those complexes, because that's not the answer either. The answer is certainly mixed income, mixed use, but also integrating with all of society. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to last, and by the way, we'll have more, we're going to move to another panel where Reverend Sharpton is going to be here, but I'm on time, and you can ask the question in the next session. But I just want to give our panelists, before they leave, last comment. Senator Stack?
Sure. Thank you, Governor, for all that you're doing. I appreciate that. You have a partner in the legislature and as mayor of Union City.
So you heard it. Senator Stack strongly
Absolutely.
supports an appropriation.
Absolutely. And whatever I can do in my role, I'll be there.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I'm just so happy to welcome you to Tom's River, and we're really looking forward to a great working relationship with you. And if I could just mention this, you mentioned I went to St. Peter's College. When I did, there were only 3 buildings across the street. My ring that I have has worn the date off after a half a century of wear and tear.
God bless you. And Tom also, like the mayor, is a once a Marine, always a Marine, USMC. And so I just want to thank Mayor Kelaher's service to this nation, as did Governor Florio, and for his service to Tom's River. Bishop?
Governor, we stand unequivocally with you and want to applaud you again for your vision, what we're doing. One of the issues raised here, anytime you put profits over people, you got a major problem. Our issue is now, how do we make people the priority and not just profits?
And I look forward to working with the church on the housing issue.
Yes, sir.
Because I think We're not in the, I think that's a real opportunity. The faith-based housing, and my dear friend Reverend Gloria Walton, who's here, faith-based housing has the lowest level of recidivism, has the lowest level of relapse, because frankly, you know, a power greater than ourselves needs to lead us out of the wilderness into the promised land. Mayor?
I wanted to echo some of those sentiments and just say thank you to all of you. It is inspiring to have 750 people in a room and an overflow room downstairs working on a very important issue where New Jersey can be a leader nationally on how we treat an important population coming back to our community. So thank you all for coming out today. It's really, really inspiring.
And to say also to the gang over there in the corner that traveled all the way from South Jersey, can we have a shout out? Amen. I want the bishop to know when they heard you're coming, we have churches all over New Jersey here. Judge?
Just want to thank you, Governor, and allowing me to be on the panel. And you heard today, and hopefully you'll see that this is a partnership. I intend to have the criminal justice reform not only implemented in Hudson on time, but to be successful. And to the young lady from Corrections, we work very closely with Corrections, and we have meetings every month to review the jail population with the prosecutor, with the public defender. And we are staying on top of this, and I don't want to speak for her. I know she was here early. The prosecutor and I have the same view. We will make this work, and we will certainly try to avail ourselves of the facilities that you provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
Just like to thank you, Governor, and the Mayor of Jersey City, Fulop, for putting this together. This is an incredible event. Glad to be here. Just want to say that, you know, prison is an industry, and we're talking about destroying this industry or making it less. You know, people are getting rich off of other people's incarceration. That's supported by the 13th Amendment that says slavery is illegal unless you commit a crime. You know, it's important for us to understand that we're trying to dismantle an industry that exists and mainly preys on poor, Black, and Latino folks in this country. So it's important for us to do what we can to dismantle it, and whatever I can do to join that, I'm here.
And I just want the audience to know that, and you're going to hear from John later, but we would not be able to do what we're doing in all of these cities but for these mayors' strong support. We're doing it on addiction treatment with Integrity House in Avis Village. We're doing it with housing, with their supportive housing. We're also doing employment and training, identification with Motor Vehicle Corporation in New Jersey, Commission, excuse me, and also with the State Bar Association, where we have 56 lawyers from throughout the state of New Jersey that represent our clients in municipal courts all over the state. So again, to the mayors, to the county leaders, I want to say thank you, and at this time I want to call up Roger Jones. Can we have a round of applause for our panel?